From the shores of Monster Island to the depths of the Hollow Earth, this is a Kaiju United Town Hall, discussing all the important happenings in the Kaiju community.
Welcome back, everybody, to Kaiju United Town Hall, Episode 3. I am your host for this episode, Nick Crispino, aka Kaiju Junkie. I'm joined, as always, by our Editor-in-Chief, Jacob Lingle.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And today we've got a very special guest. He is one of the premier Kaiju YouTubers, Mr. Dante Dotson.
What's going on, everybody? What's up? Hope you guys are having a great day today.
Awesome. Well, guys, let's just jump right into the shit. We're here to talk about Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. We're recording this on a Saturday. It's been out for not even 3 days, and already the community is buzzing about this movie. So let's just start off with general thoughts. Let's let the guest go first. Dante, what are your initial thoughts on the movie?
My initial thoughts, it was exactly what I always imagined it being. If you're someone that's, all hardcore about these monster fights and in general, this one just was like the cherry on top because it was just one of those movies. I just had just full focus. I didn't even once yawn at all. That's how it's a good movie. Because usually if you start yawning, usually it's that pacing that kind of gets slow. But no, the pacing in this one, and coming as a hardcore Godzilla fan, I was totally cool with Godzilla, not sharing that much screen time with Kong because the best thing about Godzilla in the monsterverse that people don't realize is that it doesn't matter how much screen time he has. Every time he just shows up, for a good scene, it's always legendary and it's always unforgettable. So it's still a win-win situation. And yeah, I just had a blast with nobody. I didn't really have much of nitpicks in general, to be honest. I just was flowing with it from beginning to the end, and all I just asked for is another monsterverse movie already. That's just how I feel about it.
Jacob?
I think my thoughts will differ a little bit. I had fun with it, but I think I fall into the camp that I liked it, but I didn't love it. There are a few things I think I'll just bring this up right now. I mean, we could talk about it later, but the final fight to me was a little underwhelming. It was just oh, okay, it's over. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's because the whole movie was fight. It just didn't stop. Godzilla went and, spoilers, Godzilla went and kicked Tiamat's ass, kicked Sicilla's ass, and juiced up, and he was going to go fight Shimo. I just wish we got a little more of that, because I watched it again for the second time last night, and I needed a... I guess I was expecting more of an epic finale, but I guess it's kind of cool that it was fast-paced and Godzilla and Kong jumped in and got that shit taken care of quickly, which is when I think about it, that's kind of neat. Usually these battles are days. The G14 was overnight. They were fighting all night. This one, it was they fought for 10 minutes and it was over. They just hopped in and took care of that shit. You know what I mean?
I'm right there with you, Jacob. I didn't love this movie, but I didn't hate it. I'm right in between. I think my initial rating, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Not as memorable as GVK, and I know it's really unfair to compare two movies, but I don't know. I just feel with GVK, it was so anticipated in the community because it was a rematch that we had been waiting decades for, and it finally happened. And now here comes a worthy successor, I'd say, GXK, but it just doesn't hold the weight of GVK. It just seems like that once the theater run is done and once all the merchandise is sold and everybody buys their Blu-ray copies, it's just gonna blend in with everything else. It's not going to make as much of an impact as something that, say, GVK did, or -1, or hell, even Godzilla 2014. But I do think it has its rightful place in the MonsterVerse and the Godzilla franchise.
For sure. How are you feeling about our thoughts, Dante?
Yeah, so far, like, yeah, I can totally see where everybody's coming from because, yeah, like part of me, like, yeah, even though I was like, I walked out saying like, oh yeah, this is like a solid 10 out of 10 because I just walked in with like not much of expectations. Like, I think what would really throw off people is like yeah, let's say for someone like me that's like just into Godzilla, like you're gonna probably walk in and think like, oh man, I can't wait to see like a bunch of new scenes of like Godzilla in it, and then like once you watch it you just realize like okay, well seems like it's not in it as much as Kong is, and then like that could be like a minor complaint for some people is not everyone's going to take that too well, but for me, like yeah, if I had to be honest, like yeah, I knew like part of me I was like, am I tripping or did I feel like yeah, the fight scenes in this one, like as good as they looked, they kind of did feel like a little bit shorter than like usual because like starting back on Sunday, this is when I was like rewatching like all of the monsterverse movies in the rightful order, like Kong Skull Island, G14, King of the Monsters, and GVK. And I was just really just paying attention more to like the fight scenes and like so like those I would say like GXK would probably be like I would say somewhere on the same page as like G14's final fight. Like, yeah, it was kind of like that because like there wasn't like much of like like huger fights like before that. It was just like more of like quick fights like Godzilla versus Scylla and then Godzilla versus Tiamat and then even with Godzilla versus Kong, it was pretty much like GVK all over again, but for like maybe 5 minutes. Because if you like even notice too, like Godzilla's like pulling the same moves that he did back in GVK, like stepping on Kong's chest. But this time, only thing that was different was like he was gonna this time like electrocute him, or not electrocute him, but execute him with his atomic breath. But with Mothra being in the way, like that was the only reason why this time Kong lives. So it's like I feel like that could be another issue as well with the little plot armor expedition and all that stuff. But then again, it's just like I don't know. It's just because how I just say. I mean, this is all fiction, so it's like I don't know what can count as being realistic. Anyways, this is just in a fictional universe, so it's like who am I to dictate or control like what really goes down in these movies? It's just more of like like I said, people are just coming in heavily for these fight scenes. Not many people really care for like the human characters. They never really have. It's just more like, well, as long as they're either making sense or just not ruining too much of the movie's plot expedition, it's fine. So that's why like in this one, I know if anything, I think it was more of like between Dan Stevens and the guy that plays as Bernie. Like those two are like probably like the weird, quirky ones. But like it still worked, because it's like they're not like too serious like how it was in G14. They have ways of like trying to crack a joke or just say dumb things in the way of the movie. But I don't know. I thought it flowed pretty well. But yeah, if I had to really criticize it, I would just say just maybe extend the fight scenes a little bit more.
Things
Yeah.
did happen very abruptly.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to backpedal, but you mentioned Godzilla not being in it as much as Kong, despite being the headlining character in the title.
Right.
And you know what? I think I'm just gonna say it. These are Kong movies. Godzilla just shows up first on the title just for marketing. Like that's the only reason. But these are 100% Kong movies. Now, is that a good thing? Depends on who you are. Me personally, I don't mind it. I like watching Kong do his thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really things did happen abruptly. Like Godzilla shows up, fights Scylla over in 2 seconds, fights Tiamat. We don't even get to see how the fight ended, really. Godzilla,
Yeah.
they all show up in Rio de Janeiro. It's all done. I mean, but to me, that kind of leans into the its Showa era inspirations in that regard. Because if you think about Showa era fights, there were a couple instances in those movies where stuff happens abruptly and things happen for reasons. Like when Kong gets the Beast Glove, it literally happened. Like, oh, Kong, he hurt his arm. We conveniently have this gigantic glove that we've been working on. I'll go get it. And he comes back in a flying ship. Like I could 100% see that happening in a Showa era film.
Totally. Um, And I guess I'm going to echo a couple things you said, Nick, real quick. Unless you got other stuff to add. Then
Oh
I'll
no,
let you
I don't know
finish.
where I was going with that, but just
Okay,
going on a little
so
tirade.
I was just like listing notes in my head as you guys were talking. So, um, one thing I wanted to add on to Dante's like plot armor discussion was there's a really great quote by Stan Lee, and he was like, "All these people that are like, who would win, Goku or Godzilla? Whoever the writers want to win will win. It doesn't matter."
Right.
That's basically what he said. Like the writers win. And that being said, um, I I kind of agree and I kind of disagree on the whole Kong movie thing. I think it's a Godzilla movie too because he had presence throughout the movie. He
True,
wasn't
but
right there next to Kong doing the Hollow Earth stuff, but he was over here doing his own thing. Like they did the separate story arc thing from GVK, but I think they learned their lesson from that because the Madison Russell stuff just wasn't cutting it in
Yeah.
GVK. I think it's just very clearly the Gia stuff in GVK was the stronger arc. So I think they just got rid of that and they decided to um, just go with the Gia stuff for Kong and then have Godzilla just fuck around on his own. Which, if you like that, cool. If you don't, that's fine. Um, what I really wanted to see, because I like the Kong stuff in the Hollow Earth. I know a few people had issues with it because it made the scale feel a little weird.
oh, we're getting
Like
into
when you were
this. Oh boy, I was hoping we get into this.
okay, so a lot of people just felt like the scale was really weird with the Kong and Suko stuff, just because they felt really small in this giant Hollow Earth, which is interesting. I don't know where I fall on that, and Nick can add his comments, and Dante, you can talk about this in a minute. But I really like the Kong storytelling. I feel like as a character, Kong is a little more anthropomorphized, so you can get that kind of Kong and Suko relationship out of him. Yeah, Godzilla had Minya. He sure did. I just don't think legendary Godzilla right now, the way he's presented, he's not going to go walk around with Doug and, go on a little adventure and look
With
at
grunts and be like,
skeletons.
like
Yeah.
as
He's not
they're
going to look
talking
at
to each other.
skeletons of his ancestors and look really sad. He's not going to go find more of his kind and be like, oh my God, Godzilla's kind of a grumpy asshole. He just wants to be left alone. And that reminds me of Godzilla 64 a lot. And I love that part of him. He just felt really mean in this one.
He's like, I'm fucking sick of this shit.
I'm very curious. This is my last thought, and we'll get into that whole discussion about the scaling. Um, very interested in the choice to keep Shimo around and to really brutally end Scar King's brief tenure as a MonsterVerse antagonist. So maybe we'll see more of Shimo.
I had a feeling that they were going to keep Shimo around. Like from the moment she was revealed, and because when she came out of the cave, Scar King wielded that little crystal, and she was sort of fighting back a little bit, and immediately, it was immediately I picked up on it being like, all right, Shimu doesn't want to do his bidding. Like the first chance she gets, she's gonna turn on him. So I saw that coming from a mile away. But yeah, the scale. Again, I'm with you, Jacob. I liked Kong's story, but I just couldn't help but notice how less of a kaiju movie it felt like when Tsuko and Kong were doing their thing in the Hollow Earth, and how much it felt like a Planet of the Apes movie. Like with the way they're like communicating with each other, anthropomorphizing their like characteristics a little bit. Like with no cities or humans in sight. Like even like if I'm not mistaken, like I could be remembering it wrong, but when they were that part where the two of them were by the lake, the trees were only like slightly shorter than they were. It just looked like your standard shrubbery. So the scale, not the biggest thing in the world. Again, this movie takes heavy influence on the Showa era, and one could argue that the Showa era didn't always do scale well either, and it's just another way to show inspiration. But I don't know, it's just something that kind of took me out of it and something I couldn't help notice. But, but again, I have a lot of gripes with this movie, but it didn't really detract from my enjoyment. I still walked out of the theater being like, no, that was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, I would say, like for me, like yeah, in terms of like just more of like Scar King as a villain. Yeah, I didn't know how everybody else felt, but I just felt like out of every villain that we've gotten, I just felt like Scar King was personally just not the strongest villain in the Monsterverse compared to somebody like Monster Zero. Like that's all I was just thinking about because like I know Adam Wingard was saying like, oh yeah, Scar King here, he's gonna be the world's like biggest threat in the Monsterverse that you guys have ever seen, but they made it because like I know before the actual revelation, like people like a lot of people thought that Scar King was going to be at least a little bit taller than both Godzilla and Kong, and then once you find out he's shorter, and you're just like, well, how is this going to work exactly? And so it kind of like becomes a problem because he's already like one of those villains that relies his issues heavily on Shimu, and so like that's how I also felt like in the long run, like as soon as that crystal gets broken and Shimu's free from being a slave to Scar King, well yeah, she's gonna easily definitely retaliate against Scar King and end up freezing him or something, and that's exactly what we saw towards the end of the movie. And yeah, I just in the long run, I just didn't have any sympathy or didn't feel any type of way of Scar King at all. I just felt like he was just another big monkey in the Hollow Earth, just trying to challenge another big monkey, and that's all it just really was. Because like you also noticed too, Kong also did have the upper hand. Like I know you kind of struggled a little bit with that chokehold by Scar King, but once he outsmarted him, he was about to like defeat him right there. But then Scar King was like, oh no, real quick, let me just call Shimu for some support, and then boom, that's what starts the rest of the movie, pretty much. But that's just how I personally felt. I just felt like out of every villain that we've gotten, like just Scar King was not the strongest one to me. That's just how I'll just leave it. But
This movie feels very wrestling. I am a wrestling mark. I fell in love with wrestling during the pandemic. Obviously, Godzilla suplexes Kong. That was probably my favorite moment.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
Scar King to me feels like a wrestling heel. He is not the strongest. He's not Brock Lesnar or something, I guess that's a household name. But he's got the dastardly heel tactics that a lot of bad guys in wrestling have. They'll cheat. They'll skimp their way out of stuff. They'll weasel out. Scar King to me feels really lanky and weaselly. So
yeah.
I would have liked to see more of that. If we're gonna talk about characterizations, I want to see more of Shimo. Shimo just kind of looked confused the whole time. Like when the crystal broke, Shimo's like,
"What do I do?"
Yeah. So, I would have liked to see Scar King do some more dastardly stuff, like mustache twirling. If we're going full 70s Showa, because I think the Showa comparison's really fair. Adam said it himself.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's leaning more towards 73, 74, like Jun Fukuda Showa vibes, rather than like Mothra versus Godzilla or Ghidorah, the three-headed monster Showa. I do think there's a difference.
This movie wears its inspirations on its shoulder very proudly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
No, not at all. Like it was advertised as such. So if you go in and be like, well, what the fuck is this? Why is it so Showa era? Well, that's on you.
Yeah, right. And we'll get into a couple of things Adam said during these interviews in a little bit. We're only 20 minutes in, so we got plenty to talk about. But one thing with Kong, I love King Kong as much as I love Godzilla. I think they're the two most iconic, lovable monster movie characters, of all time. They're Mount Rushmore, man. They're right next to each other for me.
Who are the other two, real quick?
Oh man, probably the Rhedosaurus and Gamera.
Really? I'm surprised you didn't say like Ultraman, even though he's technically not a kaiju.
That's why I didn't put him in there. I would say maybe one of Ultraman's most iconic kaiju, like Baltan or Red King or Gomora, something like that. But I'm kind of tired of Kong getting his ass kicked. I think they need to buff Kong because, like,
Yeah,
holy shit, this movie was brutal on Kong. I was like, Jesus, bro, like, come on, you're
you're
King
right.
Kong, dude.
Yeah, this movie really emphasized that Kong gets his ass kicked way too easily and he constantly needs help. Think about Godzilla versus Kong. He needed help when he fought the war bats. He needed help after he fought Godzilla. He needed help during his fight with Mechagodzilla. Like Kong, he needs a helping hand a little too often. I think they need to nerf him a little bit.
No, they gotta buff him, bro.
Oh,
They gotta buff him.
buffing. Yeah, fuck. I'm sorry.
Nerfing is like making him weaker. No, let's not nerf him. Please don't nerf Kong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Fuck it. Nerf Kong. Make him be taken down by conventional weaponry. Let's go all Godzilla '98. Nerf Kong. Yeah. No, buffing
But
is what I meant.
like, it should be like a Komodo dragon fighting a silverback gorilla. That would be a fight to see, right? Like, obviously, the Komodo's got the venomous bite, and if he gets one lick on Kong, he's probably toast. But a silverback gorilla, you don't want to fight either, right? Um, I mean, I don't want to hop over the fence at the zoo and challenge a silverback to a fist fight, but you could really emphasize the strength of Kong. You could even give him the damn electric powers. Just make him formidable, man. Like every other kaiju in the monsterverse has some form of immunity to Godzilla's atomic breath, unless you're Godzilla. This one, it's like every time he uses the atomic breath, he's got to run and dodge and hide. Like Ghidorah just tanked that atomic breath; it just knocked him over. Like I know Ghidorah is supposed to be really strong, but like Rodan in the Showa era took a hit from the atomic breath and just was like, "Ow, that kind of hurt, bro." I'm not
Yeah.
saying Kong needs to be that durable because he's still a giant animal, but I don't know. It just felt like he did win the fight against the eel thing in the water, which was a cool ass design. I really like that design. Um, but I don't know. Like it was a little more fair in Godzilla versus Kong because like Godzilla got his shit wiped by Mechagodzilla. Let's be honest,
Oh
and he
yeah.
needed Kong's help. But I
Well,
don't know.
hey, it's because Godzilla was tired from his fight with Kong.
That's fair, but he
Yeah.
still needed some help.
True.
Yeah, plus on top of that, I think yeah, I guess they said in the movie too, like yeah, Walter Simmons like purposely like just waited until Godzilla was weaker too to finally release Mechagodzilla, which made it worse. So I was like, well damn, like so imagine if Godzilla just was not in a weak state in that moment, and then how would that change like the outcome of GVK? That's all that just ever crosses my mind, like every time.
Yeah,
I have a question about since we're on the topic of Scar King and the kaiju themselves. I think this movie pulled a Marvel Phase 1 with the villains and just made the villains evil versions of the heroes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
How do you feel about that?
I'll go first. I actually saw a meme the other day that was Godzilla versus Kong, and it says, "Evil Godzilla. Godzilla needs Kong's help. Team up and win." And then Godzilla x Kong. Evil Kong. Kong needs Godzilla's help. Team up and win. And then it said movie 3, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
I really hope the next installment gets a little more creative with the villains. Like, if they're going original kaiju from here on out, then just don't do what the MCU is notorious for. I mean, it's fine once in a while. Like, it's not a gripe that's enough to just make me flat out be like, oh my God, this movie's dog shit. It's just, I can't help but notice it. And I'm like, I really hope they don't do that in the next movie because they kind of did it with GVK but Mechagodzilla wasn't the main threat. Like the main threat was Godzilla and Kong against each other. Like got Mechagodzilla was just sort of like a bonus boss for them to fight.
Yeah.
He wasn't like the main villain throughout the entire thing. But here we have an entire movie where Kong has to fight an evil Kong and Godzilla has to fight an evil Godzilla. That's a formula that people I know don't like and something that can grow stale really quick.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the camp that they need more Toho monsters. I know they're expensive, and Toho is very, very. What's the right word I'm looking for? So the Toho
Strict.
gods don't anger me. They're strict. They're protective. They're protective over their beloved IP. There we go.
I don't blame them though. It's like, yeah, yo, you better get your shit right if you're gonna use it.
Yeah,
I get it.
exactly.
I totally get that. Yeah.
We're not going to give you Gigan just for you to kill him off in 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
I think we should spitball. Like, what do we want from part 3? Because like Adam's been teasing that he's probably gonna come back and do another one. So,
Can I go first?
you don't like Adam Wingard in the MonsterVerse? Yeah, give me a sec. I was just gonna say, if you don't want Adam in the MonsterVerse, you're gonna have to wait a while.
Oh, no. I think Adam in the MonsterVerse is fine because for the first time ever, the MonsterVerse has some consistency.
I agree.
Every film has had a drastically different tone, and that is expected when you give creative control to different directors. But now, like Adam Wingard, like he made a movie that essentially feels like just Godzilla versus Kong Part 2. You want more? Here's more.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like that. All the way up to the score. Junkie XL, I know, Jacob, you're not a fan, but I mean, I love the synth noise and all that stuff. It really gives it that 80s synth wave vibe that Adam Wingard was going for with all the neon, vibrant colors and all that. But so yeah, definitely more Adam in the MonsterVerse.
I will clarify that real quick before I let Dante speak. I hate's a strong word. I'm not a fan of the Divine and Glory or whatever track that's like the Mothra theme in the movie. Bear McCreary, hands down, did a perfect MonsterVerse score where he did a banger of a Rodan theme that was original, an absolutely nuts Ghidorah theme that was original, and then he got Godzilla and Mothra's original Ifukube themes. I would like to see more of that. That being said, I like the Kong theme. Like I commented on your post on Instagram, Nick, where you posted the throne room scene where he gets the axe. I like that music cue. It feels King Kong,
Very triumphant.
It gives me that vibe. Triumphant King Kong, And they repeated that motif throughout this movie as Kong's theme. I don't really care for the dollar store Fukube blah 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 theme. It definitely gives you the vibe that it's Godzilla, but like, just do the damn Godzilla theme, man. It's the Godzilla theme.
I mean, to be fair, I get where you're coming from. Like, as much as I like the score, it definitely does feel like a rehash of Godzilla vs. Kong's score. But I didn't answer what I want for the third movie. You want to know what I want? I want a conclusion. I want the MonsterVerse to know when to end before it gets stupid. Because I think, especially with the success of Godzilla -1, more people are getting into giant monster movies. They're giving them a chance, and it's becoming a lot more mainstream. So, I think kaiju movies are going to be the next big thing. But that also is worrying because it opens up the possibility of them becoming the next superheroes. Superheroes, they were the big thing for 10 years, but now everybody's like, oh my God, another fucking MCU film. Enough of this shit already. And I think the MonsterVerse, that could happen with the MonsterVerse if they let it go on for too long. So I want the MonsterVerse to know when to say when.
I like it. What do you feel, Dante?
Yeah, I agree. Cause yeah, I know. I had one fan like come out and tell me that apparently Adam Wingard would like to use the smog monster for the next installment in the MonsterVerse. So if that's actually a thing, then okay, that's cool. But yeah, for me personally, like don't get me wrong, because I was never like really huge on Kong until like really more of Skull Island, because that was probably the only film where I actually preferred him that way, where he's just not wasting time sipping over a blonde chick in the like just in any of his previous films, and just always dying at the end of the film too. So I also got to the point where I got to see like Son of Kong, but yeah, I was like, yeah, this movie, like, it wasn't bad. It's just like, yeah, the plot for it, I was like, well, y'all just got him killed for like no reason, basically. And then, yeah, that was really it. But no, I really like the changes that Kong has, in the monsters in terms of like, yeah, he can fight against those same planes that once killed him in the past, but not anymore. And like, he can, be smart and pretty introverted, and I just like how they all have different personalities as well, and it's great. But
The MonsterVerse
coming from
definitely remade Kong as a character well, like because
yeah,
you're right. Like in every remake of King Kong, he's
yeah,
always sort of had the same characteristics where his only purpose is to go after his beloved, or like he's destined to die tragically in New York City. So the MonsterVerse really said like, all right, let's take Kong and play with his characteristics a little bit. Let's change him. Let's change him as a character. So I always give the MonsterVerse kudos for doing that.
and like how I feel. So if they teamed up, technically twice now. So if they're gonna do this again for the third time, it's like more of, what are y'all gonna get away with this time? Who's going to be the bigger threat now in the Hollow Earth after Scar King? Because now that they have Shimu more on technically like yeah, Godzilla and Kong's side and even Mothra's side now, it's like now who is going to be the biggest icing to the cake in the Hollow Earth? Like who is it? It's going to be Destroyer, Biolante, Gaiga, another original Titan. Like what are they going to get away with in the next one? So like I'm not really like because it's like okay now that they did it twice it's just like more of like I don't know how they're gonna just get away with it for a third time. Like, I feel like unless it's like just a I don't know like a huger threat over King Ghidorah, it would make sense to like combine like everybody's forces against maybe this one specific Titan. But I don't know like what they can really get away with in terms of like a third story necessarily. If anything, I know most fans that I've been talking to, they kind of prefer more of like well after this team up, it should go back to like Godzilla 3 and then maybe like another Kong movie in the Hollow Earth, and then sure Godzilla can be featured or not, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the part that a lot of people are just stuck on. It's like just more of like what can they get away with? Because I know now that Suko is also included in the Monsterverse too, there's also talks of like, hey, there could be a Son of Kong movie as a remake to the Monsterverse. And I can see that happening since we kind of did see this throughout the film of GXK, but yeah, I just have no idea like how much more further they can just get away with just Godzilla and Kong teaming up just because fan service, because after a while, not everyone's going to be on board with like, well, what for? I'm not feeling it with Godzilla and Kong anymore. I'm tired of seeing these two in the same movie. I want Kong to like do his own thing with other monsters and Godzilla with his own monsters somewhere else. So it's like that hit or miss kind of segment now, So
Do you think that if the MonsterVerse goes on for long enough, eventually they'll kill off Kong and then have Suko take up the mantle?
there's
Oh,
been talks of that too.
I hope
I
that doesn't happen.
definitely
That's what?
like,
That's when the
oh
MonsterVerse
man,
should say when. That's when they should like
yeah,
when they're teetering on that idea of let's kill off Kong in the next film and then have a whole sleuth of films with Suko.
yeah, because like I don't know. This is oh man, this is so tricky because it's like I know like most of the expectations come from like the fans in terms of like what they want. Like, yeah, we can see monsters fight all day, but it's just like more of the cohesive story behind it. Like what's gonna make it like really good? Because don't get me wrong, like I was probably one of the few like I really liked what they did with Gia's character arc in this movie. Like
I
that was
loved
the
it.
most
I liked Chia's
interesting
art.
thing ever. Yeah, that I really thought that was better than what they did with like GVKs because they just said, oh well, Gia's like just the last one of the. Like one of the last of her kind from the Iwi tribe. But like that was really it. You didn't really like know much more about her. But then like you get the full lore, like literally in GXK, and like you find out that she's pretty much connected with Mothra,
She's part of a
and
greater prophecy.
yeah. So
Whereas
I'm
in
like,
GVK,
what?
her whole purpose was, oh, she's our translator. She's our Kong translator.
Yeah, just sign languaging with Kong. It was just like more
I
about. It was just more of a connection with Kong and Gia, pretty much, just like those two. But then in this one, seems like it's more branched out, so like Kong and Mothra. So I'm thinking too, like, would she be like basically like the new Mickey in the MonsterVerse in the long run that can like have what's it called, like telekinesis like abilities with like all
Telepathy.
these other,
Yeah.
yeah, with all these other tools.
I'm thinking that's what's happening. I think she started as the Kong thing, the Kong Whisperer.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think she's just gonna she's gonna talk to Godzilla in one of these movies. I guarantee it.
Oh man.
She's
Dude,
gonna
with
talk
the
to
way the
Godzilla.
MonsterVerse is heading as far as over-the-top sci-fi Showa era goofiness, I'm expecting them to go to space or introduce aliens.
Aliens, bro,
Aliens.
aliens.
We just said it, yeah.
Right, a couple of interesting things too. Um, Adam Winger just did an interview. I can't remember the site, but I was reading it to get ready for this podcast, and he was saying if this movie does well, the next thing he'd like to do, and he's not going to tell everything. He's not going to be like, Hedera's going to be in the next one because you got to keep those cards close. What he did say is, if this movie does well, I would like to do what we did with Kong in this movie and give him that nice arc with Suko and Private Time, but with Godzilla, and really examine who Godzilla is. And I'm really, really interested in that approach because, again, Godzilla's character is very consistent across most adaptations and incarnations. Godzilla's a force of nature. Godzilla is a balancer of nature. How do you anthropomorphize that besides him kind of going, huh, when he sees Mechagodzilla, or looking angry when he sees Ghidorah? Like, how do you get Godzilla to convey those same emotions that Kong does? That's what I'm very interested in. Because if you can pull that off, the fans are going to love it, A. And B, that's going to be fascinating to do a character examination of Godzilla. So I'm excited for that.
I agree, because like yeah, like I said, if I had to like really be honest, because like I know another question that people were asking me would be like more of how would I rank GXK in the MonsterVerse? Because for me still, it's definitely I still love King of the Monsters the most because I feel like that's probably the best that we'll ever see Godzilla, like in terms of like the story lore, like with the Hollow Earth expedition as well, like that kind of explains how Godzilla like travels pretty fast in the ocean. Like that made like a lot of sense to me. So I was like, okay, so that explains how he's just able to like travel around the world like that. That's cool. And then like he was like he was always a king, before civilization and all that stuff. And I just feel like with GXK, because yeah, you don't really see that again after King of the Monsters either, like or even in 2014. Like well, in 2014 it was like more of like the background history, like back with like more of the story of 1954 the atomic testing. That was really it. But yeah, after that it just kind of was just like, oh, he's just there, he's just here to do his thing and he just goes away. But you don't really see like the details of like what he's doing like in the process, like even in the GXK, like, yeah, he was fast enough to kill like Titanicilla and then Tiamat, but I wanted to like see more of the process of like, like what does he do with like all of these kaijus that he like kills, or like who else does he hunt down besides like these two? There was like any other secret titans around and all that stuff. But if I had to be honest, yeah, because I would put GXK probably like as the third best thing in the monsters in terms of like kaiju action, probably even the story and all that stuff. Like everything that you probably would want from like all monsters, like worldwide, like all over the place. Like with Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra, like it's a win because hey, at least Mothra got to survive too. And that was one thing I definitely wanted in King of the Monsters. I was like, well, damn, like well she's dead, but then in this
She
one,
always
she
comes
got
back
to like
though. I knew she
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
gonna
which
stay
is always
dead.
great. Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought the bummer was keeping Ghidorah dead. I thought that was just like he can regenerate his heads and he hasn't regenerated back yet. Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
okay, yeah. I was gonna say I did peep that too. That was one thing I thought was funny because leading on to like GVK, I really thought it was gonna be like more of Mecha King Ghidorah, but nope. The plot twist of it being Mecha Gods, I was like, okay, I can see how they pulled it off still with just that
I
one
think
head.
it was a good
But
idea they kept Ghidorah dead because, with Ghidorah, it's like Batman always fighting the Joker. And I know I'm not the first person to
right,
say that, and I
right,
for sure as shit won't be the
yes,
last. Again, it goes back to my thing of the MonsterVerse just growing stale, because that's a thing that would, accelerate that process. Is like, oh, Ghidorah's back again. His consciousness is in Ren Serizawa, and Ren Serizawa is going to turn into a kaiju, or I don't know. Just basically keep
I'm not
keep
saying
Ghidorah
that.
keep Ghidorah
But-
dead, at least for a little while.
But you could play into those tokusatsu cliches and have Ghidorah come back, but this time Destroya's here. So Godzilla has to work with the Joker to stop Destroya.
Ooh. That'd be some crazy like plot twists. Like, yeah, I can actually kind of see in them. I can
We
kind of
have
see them
never
doing
seen
the
Godzilla and
monster.
Ghidorah team up. I think that'd be sick.
Like,
I
yeah,
don't know. That's something I
like
want.
what you like would like totally like not expect is like what you get. Like that would actually be pretty cool. Like maybe if it was like
Like you
Godzilla
want
and
to talk
Gigan.
about fresh and exciting and not stale.
All right,
Yeah,
fair.
That'd be
You're
pretty cool. That'd be sick. I'd be
Speaking
down
of
for that.
that, my biggest question would be like, so like, how do people like feel about seeing the mix of like original Titans and then kind of like mixed with like monsters like Mothra and Kong and Godzilla like all in the same movie? How does that stick out to you?
I love oh my god, I can talk today. Jared Krzyzewski. If I mispronounce your name, I am very, very sorry. I'm a big fan of his designs. He was the lead creature designer on this film, and he fucking nailed it. He designed Mechagodzilla and GVK. I love everything he touches. Like his rework of Mechagodzilla was brilliant. Godzilla Evolved has really grown on me, actually. Like I think it's kind of sick. Scar King looks phenomenal for his short tenure in the MonsterVerse, and Shimo looks pretty rad. Um, as long as they keep him on board, you can throw original monsters at me. I just want them to be memorable. I don't want it to be like, that eel monster that looked really cool I brought up earlier. He's here. Oh, okay. See you later. I would like,
Yeah.
I'd like, some of these original monsters to become the Baragon, Varan, Gorosaurus of the MonsterVerse. Because I think the stopping point is just destroy all monsters. That's what everyone's asking
Oh
for.
man.
Come on, just do it. I know it's not an original idea, but that's the logical conclusion for me. And you need a roster to do that. So if that means we have to have our behemoths, our not Tiamat, Tiamat's dead. Our Scysillas. Oh wait, Scysilla's dead.
Methuselah.
You get what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Methuselah. I think Methuselah's dead too, but the comics don't count.
Comics are headcanon. Sorry.
What I'm trying to say is it's fine. Just make them memorable. Make people want to see Warbat come back. Because,
Oh yeah.
But then again, you have the Godzilla franchise, which has a plethora, a dynasty of these brilliant, amazing original kaiju that haven't seen screen time in decades. It's been 20 years since we've seen Anguirus. Like, come on, man. I would say if we're going the alien route, throw in Orga. That would be sick to see in the MonsterVerse. I want to see Orga come back in a Toho film or a MonsterVerse film.
I just realized something. We do already have alien life in the MonsterVerse. I just remembered Ghidorah was an alien.
Yes. I'm talking like UFOs and Zillion, so I want to see them, with the theremin music.
Bring
and
the
shit.
Ceetopians back. It would make sense. We're already in the Hollow Earth. I haven't seen Godzilla vs. Megalon in years, but wasn't the weren't they Hollow Earth kind of?
Basically, yeah, because they were like underground too, and then like they pretty much like kind of like in a GXK, like they kind of like wore those same similar outfits, but like there's in a Godzilla vs. Megalon, it's like all just like white, it's like white robes or whatever, and like there was like a button, and then it said Megalon like rise, and he just like rises and just like flies up into the fucking air and shit.
I think that would make the most sense if we're going to bring back classic like aliens or non-humans.
No, I agree. I'm going to add on to that. I agree completely. Like, I'm just saying that there's a smorgasbord of iconic, memorable, beloved characters in this 70-year franchise, and we've only seen the big five. That's where I'm kind of like, come on, guys. Just pay the licensing. Come on. You'll make your return in the box office. Just fucking do it. Have Jared Krzyzewski redesign Megalon to look like something from that Gemstone animated film. That would
Oh
be
my
sick.
god. That
I
would be
keep saying,
fire.
keep saying
That would be fire.
but like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm on the camp that I want to see more Toho monsters because I feel like the originals are just kind of disposable because they don't want to say, "Here's Gigan, bye Gigan." You know what I mean? Like, imagine if Godzilla went and killed Anguirus to power up in GXK. Yeah, that wouldn't go over well.
Yeah, like it would just make more sense because I think like ever since like literally King of the Monsters, like most people on board were just like, man, like we want to see more, Toho Kaijus because like seeing like the main three like Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, like yeah, they just look great in the monsters, and they were like literally exactly, pretty much like what I imagined like all the time as a kid. Like that's why that movie is like just so mesmerizing to me, just because like literally like that's all I just always imagined like as a kid. Like I didn't I just like bigger scaling and just like more destruction, like chaos, and I never thought I would actually like Mothra more in the Monsterverse because I never really cared for her more in the
All right, cool.
early days of Godzilla.
Dante's with me. Mothra haters unite.
Well, okay,
Okay,
it's not that I
clarify. I'm
hate
not a
Mothra.
Mothra
It's just I
hater. I just
never
think she's
cared for
overrated.
her. Like, yeah, I just never cared for her. I just like she's actually like better off in the MonsterVerse take than in the old Godzilla films, which is what I like. I just like the changes that they did. Like, even Rodan too. Like, I thought it was just like one of those like annoying monsters that is like kind of like a little bully in between, but they like nailed it a lot more better. Like in the monsters in terms of like he's always like doesn't matter like who it is, whether it's King Ghidorah or Godzilla, he's just gonna like just fight you like regardless. So he's kind of like the Starscream in the Monsterverse as well, just siding with whoever's the winner here and all that stuff. So I just thought it was great. So
Where is he? Like, he's alive. He's out there
yeah,
somewhere.
like he's
Where's
literally
he at?
sleeping in Mount Fuji. So okay, if y'all brought Mothra back, I'm hoping in the next one, like, can y'all maybe bring back Rodan? Because like I feel like that's what probably also episodes in
I
GXK
got an
right now,
idea.
just because they got Mothra back. So it's like, oh shit, well, they got Mothra back. I'm hella gonna see this movie now. Kind of like that. That's just
Yeah,
how I feel. Yeah.
I got an idea. I'm gonna present my idea, and then Crispy, you can go. So Adam talked about having a Godzilla movie like Kong and Suko. What if Rodan just joins him? Just Godzilla and Rodan hanging out together.
Oh man, that would be nice. Yeah, because that's actually another thing I always wanted to. Because we didn't really have time to see like Godzilla and Rodan like be more of like allies. Like you just saw Rodan like just surrendering. He's like, my bad, bro. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. And Godzilla's
and
like,
he
yes,
and
like that.
if we're going Showa references, Rodan was Godzilla's first rival. Like, I know he
Yeah.
fought Anguirus first, but in Ghidra the three-headed monster, they were equals. Like, Rodan
Yeah.
shrugged off atomic breath. He laughed at Godzilla. Like, if we're going Showa, like, take some of that. Rodan is Godzilla's equal. He's really fast and he's in the air, whereas Godzilla's on the land and sea, and he can
Yeah.
tank atomic breath. That would be really cool. That would be something I would like to see.
And on top of that too, I know Mike Doty also did say like, yeah, pretty much Rodan's like top tier, like in terms of like fly. Like he's like just as destructive as Godzilla can get. And that's what made me like even more excited about Rodan like in this taking the monsterverse. So I was like, oh shit, okay, like yeah, these two like collide together, like or like team up, like that'll be just insane to see. We haven't seen it yet, but yeah, like I said, hopefully in either the sixth film or maybe after the sixth one, I want to definitely see Godzilla and Rodan together, like on screen for sure. I want to see what they can get away with.
I liked how in a bunch of pre-release interviews, Michael Dougherty called Rodan the King of the Skies, and then in the movie, he's Ghidorah's bitch after 5 minutes.
Yeah, literally.
I did like that Mothra's little webbing came back. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah, that's
just
pretty
shooting
cool.
off all the monkeys. Yeah, like literally in the Hollow Earth. Yeah.
Dude, the one where she shoots him, the one where she shoots him up against the rock, and he's like up against the rock, cracked me up so hard, dude. You just see the rock tumbling, and he's just stuck on it.
I was on. You know what? Okay, now that we're on the comedy side, what would you like? Because I know some parts definitely had me laughing more on the monster side of things. Like one of the things that got me, like I seen it coming too, which made it like even funnier. It was when one of the monkeys were just like screaming in Kong's face, and you know Kong's just
Pow.
unfazed as hell, and he just bah, just fucking decked his shit in the face. That was just
I
awesome.
want more. I want more character moments with monsters like that. I want a kaiju to scream at Godzilla and then he just like pokes him and he falls over or something. That'd be
Fucking
really
fish
fun.
slaps him or
I
something.
think
Yeah.
people are going to be mad at us if we don't bring up when Kong used Zuko as just a bat to beat the shit
my
out of the
God.
other
Oh
apes.
yeah, that was great. I was dying.
Like
That was
nunchuck,
so
melee weapon,
fast.
whatever you want to call it, just brutalizing the other great apes.
That was great. That was my favorite part that Kong did in that moment. I'm actually more impressed that Suko even survived all of
I
that.
was just going to say, I was like,
Yeah, Zuko's durable as fuck,
Kong
dude.
did not pull any punches when he used Zuko as a weapon. Like, I'm very surprised
Yeah,
Zuko didn't just get torn in half at the legs.
yeah. I'm like, damn, he still
Yeah,
survived
you
all
saw
of
what he
that
did
from
to
three
that
of them.
like wolf dog thing. He just fucking ripped it in half.
Oh yeah, those war dogs. Oh man.
Maybe it's just a peek at how durable Zuko really is. You know, maybe in future installments, he'll grow up and he'll be more durable than Kong and more buffed than Kong. Who knows?
Oh
And then
man.
Kong will die and Zuko will take over.
No, let's not do that. Let's not.
Want to fight for my home? All right, fine. Oh man.
No, that was like really fucking funny.
Get a real put an F in the chat real quick for that random dude that got eaten by a tree. I don't even remember his
Oh
fucking
yeah.
name.
That just scared the hell out of me. I was like, oh.
That was coming as soon as him and Trapper started. Like right as he died, the way the camera was positioned.
Oh yeah.
Am I the only one who notices this? But like every time something like that, a character dies very spontaneously, they always put the camera in a very like predictive composition. Like you know it's coming just by
Oh
the
yeah.
camera angle. Like you guys know that too?
Yep.
Huh?
Like as soon as they position the camera at him a certain way, I'm like, all right, he's on borrowed time right now.
Yeah, because I think it was like there was like an angle, like they like had him like pretty much like just walking backwards. So I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna just walk back and he's gonna fall into something right there. I didn't expect it to like just like snatch him like so fast and like just disappear. Like I was like, oh man, this is why I just stay indoors for shit like this. This is exactly why I don't like going outside. It was great. That was like a perfect ad for me right there.
They did the same thing with Bill Randa in Kong Skull Island right before he got eaten by
Oh
the skull
yeah.
crawl, like that close up on his face and the camera
Oh
pulls
shit.
back and I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. Here
Yeah.
it comes. There's just certain camera angles that they do, but right before a character dies, where you just know.
It's like I think it started with Samuel L. Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, where he starts giving that speech. Have you guys seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
I seen like
Okay,
parts of it.
Okay, so Samuel L. Jackson's like, we're not gonna stay here any longer. We're gonna go and fight these sharks, and then the shark just fucking grabs him and pulls him under.
Oh man.
I mean, I love how like they drew I like how they drew it out. Like you knew it was happening, but they like Trapper and that guy, they just keep going back and forth, prolonging the inevitable. I'm like, oh god, when's it gonna happen? Like it's gonna happen. Is it gonna happen now? Is it gonna happen now? And then just whoop. F's in the chat for Australian guy who sounds like he smoked 2 packs a day.
We gotta appreciate the
Justice
fact
for
too.
Mikhail, damn it!
Oh, Mikhail.
I knew it.
Mikhail. Okay.
I knew as soon as he was like, "I'm getting eaten alive out here."
Can we get
Oh,
some
oh, yeah,
hashtags
are ya?
justice for Mikhail in the comments, please?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
it's-
we
yeah.
also appreciate the fact. I think this is like the first monsterverse movie. Like finally, it's like more than one cuss word. Like because beyond the whole oh shit. Like I mean I know it's like they're to go still. Like they say like shit or like yeah. I think that's really it. It's just oh shit or what the hell or something. But like yeah, I just like the fact that they're like more like just like more vocab for the humans too. Like at
Did
the right
they-
times.
Did they do that thing that a lot of characters right before they die in the Monsterverse, they just go, oh shit. And then like, it started with Randa, and then
Yeah.
it was that Monarch agent right before Ghidorah killed them in Antarctica. And then it was
Yeah.
Walter Simmons right before Mechagodzilla killed him. Did they have the oh shit moment?
No, they didn't.
I think it was just more of a reaction just to like seeing Godzilla coming back and they're like, oh shit, it's Godzilla. That was like really it. But I don't remember
No.
that.
It was
Uh,
just Bernie going, "Oh shit! Oh my god, that tree just ate him!"
Like, are we not? They also kind of went back to Skull Island when that
yes.
Landsack guy got eaten by the psycho vultures. Are we just gonna pretend like that didn't just happen? Like a man died, and then like Bernie comes back, like he got eaten by a tree. Like, why are you guys just walking away? Are we not gonna process this?
Yeah, I
And
definitely
they don't.
keep
They
that.
never
Yeah.
do. They find the Mothra temple and they're like, "Oh my god, it's a waterway!" And they just completely forget them to kill.
See, one thing I noticed, speaking about that temple, I noticed it was exactly like, because they had a Mothra's like same temple icon. So I'm like, okay, so like, because I think another thing that I just thought about, because I know towards the end of the post-credit scenes, like when the credits are like rolling and like it has that picture saying, like, hey, Mothra's egg was discovered here. Now it's being contained or whatever. So I'm still wondering because I know that's definitely not the same one that we just saw in GXK. So is that like a whole different Mothra over there
That
somewhere,
might have just been like
or just
a
I think
fan
retcon?
it's,
service
it's
thing.
retconned.
I think it's
I think
retcon.
I think GVK was a soft reboot. So
I
anything
think so
Wheeler
too.
Well,
does,
they've been the MonsterVerse has been retconning shit all the time, like since
oh yeah, GVK or G14, the King of the Monsters. There's a lot of retconning, like
Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I know we're gonna get
Oh
into this
man,
shit
that
again.
so ooh yeah.
That show was notorious for the retconning.
I wasn't the only one that just like let it slide. Like I was so hurt just seeing the opening of like it was just when Gonzo's getting nuked. I'm like, where the hell is that other monster? I think it was a Shino Moore or something like that. Kind of got the names for a while, but
Comics
and
are
then,
soft
Comics
canon,
Red Cannon.
Dante.
yeah, I was just like, oh, where is it? I was like, I know it's not canon in the show, but god damn it! Or like I know a lot of people wanted the Muto Prime too, and I was like, guess it's not here. There's no Muto Prime because I think that one took place like right after. It's like the same year, 2014, like after the San Francisco battle. I guess yeah, Godzilla fought the Muto Prime like a little bit and sometime later in the same year, but yeah, that didn't happen in the show. Or trying to think, I kind of felt like in the long run, like the show was like I give it a good 7 out of 10, but because then like with it leading on to GXK, I really felt like you're not really missing anything from the show. It's just you're just like in awe, like just looking at the show visually. But it's really it felt
The
like
show
in a way
just
like
sort of is.
yeah, it just didn't like add any volume to like anything else. Not even in the Hollow Earth or like nothing. I didn't feel like
They
any
weren't even in the Hollow
connection.
Earth.
Or in Axis Mundi, it
Yeah,
was like like the Earth's crust and then the layers beneath into the
that.
core.
Oh, there.
Yeah, like
That's another
that
thing
stuff.
they were messing with the lore that I couldn't stand. I don't know if we touched up on this in our Monarch Legacy of Monsters episodes, Jacob, but like the way the portals worked, they just completely just threw all the it's impossible to get through the portals. They just threw that away because remember in GVK it was like, oh, we can't go into the Hollow Earth. We tried and the whole team was crushed in an instant. Meanwhile, Shaw and his team, they were able to get through no problem. People were able to get through just by passing through with no vehicles whatsoever. And they all just
How did the Iwi
conveniently
get down there? How did the Iwi get from there to Skull Island?
and
Funny
like
enough,
they all just conveniently passed through and went to Axis Mundi. Like no person, like Kate, for example, she didn't miss that like sub passage to get into Axis Mundi, and she went to Hollow Earth or got crushed. Like how? I don't even know where I'm going with this. That show just makes me so mad.
no, so to make it even better, like even while reading GXK the Hunt said the same thing. There's this character named Raymond Martin because he's like another guy that's trying to like kill off like all the Titans in the Hollow Earth, same thing. Because like in the graphic novel, it says unknown Hollow Earth entry point. They don't explain how he got there. He just went in there. But like it was like the same sequence as like GVK. It's like they got the heave or whatever. But the thing is, like, how did Monarch just not even notice that? And like that, I could see where that issue relies on in GXK because same thing. If they didn't even notice Scar King for a while, I feel like Monarch's not going to be able to keep track of all these things that's going on in the Hollow Earth in the long run. But yeah, same thing. Like all these made up entry points. It's like, well, clearly people can still bypass all of these things, like no matter where they're at, like with like no problems, like at all.
I got a better question.
What's that?
what the fuck ever happened to that hole in Hong Kong that Godzilla drilled through?
I was right about that.
I guess
too.
we just forgot about that. We still got to go through these portals to get to the Hollow Earth and make it a big deal and go through this fucking Windows Vista audio visualizer of a rift to get to Hollow Earth.
Yeah, like that's something that they could easily explore in the next film. Dude, Godzilla just blew a hole to
They
the Hollow
flat out
Earth.
forgot that thing even
Oh,
existed.
I know. But I'm just like, he did that just to yell at Kong, which is hilarious. Like, but what came out of it? There's a giant hole in it going to the Hollow Earth now. Like, what can climb out of that?
Why are you still
don't
fucking
know.
with vortexes when you can easily just go through this hole in the ground? No problem.
I feel like, you know what? I'm thinking of it right now. All those Hellhawks that we saw flying like inside the Hollow Earth, I bet you most of them flew out that hole. They're probably terrorizing Hong Kong right now because I know GXK. I don't know if y'all caught the year, but it takes place in 2027 in the movie's timeline. So it's like 3 years after GVK.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious. After 3 years, like, did they bother to like destroy this portal? Because I know like in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, that's what they were trying to do. Destroy all these Hollow Earth entry points. But it seemed like they just didn't care about that after a while. And like I know there's like another one in Hong Kong, just flat out in the middle of like the fucking city.
Yeah, they just patched it up with some concrete. There's a Starbucks over it right now. It's from what I understand.
Shit.
They do tours now. That is another thing that they could do. I'm throwing a lot of could do's out. I don't think they're going to. I would love to be surprised. They made a commentary on GXK that they don't want the corporations to get their hands on the Hollow Earth. Well, what happens when you get a very wealthy billion-dollar corporation with heave technology? Well, you get Mechagodzilla 1. 2, like, you could Jurassic Park that shit. You could be like, Hollow Earth tours, and then have it go completely wrong.
Well,
But
they've
I don't
already
know, that
like
might-
toyed with that idea in like Monarch. Remember, they were selling tours of San Francisco after G-Day.
Yeah, take it all the way. You want to go see some monsters? Okay.
Let's go.
Do you guys, just a random off question, but we were talking about Gia earlier. I mean, we talked about her being like the Titan Whisperer, but do you think she's kind of standing in for the Shobijin in this movie?
I think so.
Oh yeah. I feel like she's just been like literally the best character like ever since like GVK because I know like not even I myself was like a huge fan of like Millie Bobby Brown. I just felt like her like she didn't really have much like going on for her like even in King of the Monsters too like she was just kind of just put on the spot like her mom's like put her on the spot with that whole kidnapping expedition and then GVK she's just being like kind of traumatized with the events but then it's kind of weird because then she's also willing to go with a conspiracy theorist to basically like help out the events of Mechagodzilla in Hong Kong. So it's like, well, I guess you're no longer afraid, so you're good to go. And then after that, like now, I was more interested about anything that Gia had going on because the fact that she's the only one that can sign language with any of the monsters so far. Well, that's cool. And then now that we know that she's very like essential in the monsterverse now in terms of like who to spawn in whenever like help is needed like that. Yeah, Gia's the answer, and like I do like that relationship dynamic between Dr. Eileen Andrews and Gia. Like, yeah, I actually like those two together. Bernie, I actually like his role better. In this one overall. But oh well, so I was kind of sidetracking like favorite characters, but yeah, with more Gia though, like yeah, no, same thing. I just liked her arc like even more in GXK than I did in GVK. Just after the whole like, oh well, she survived after the storm. That was like really all that you just really learned from it. But no, in this one, you're just like, oh shit, okay, like I can see why like these things are happening now, in this film. So I just thought it was really cool.
I did like this cast, like real quick. Trapper was fun. He did his job. I don't know how the hell he got over to the Skull Island outpost by himself with a little hunting knife, but
Reasons.
that's okay.
It's just reasons.
It was
in the
power
Showa
of-
era,
it was the-
things happen because reasons, and in
oh,
this movie,
know.
inspired by the Showa era, things happen because of reasons.
I do not. Oh, what is the saying? It was like Do not cite the dark magic to me. I was there when it was written. You know what I mean? Um, Something like that. I know Showa logic, and I know my Showa math. Like in Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster, where the guy's like, "I'll pay you $5 to jump in that volcano and get my hat." Um,
Oh yeah, I was like, for $5, give me
so
100 for this.
I know, but
Yeah.
I think it's the power of Kiss.
Or even in, like in the original King Kong versus Godzilla, like, hey, we're gonna make a bet right now. Who do you think's gonna win, Godzilla or King Kong? My money's on King Kong. Like I actually like that was more relatable than like anything I saw in GVK. If I had to be honest, I was like, why didn't they just go with that arc? Like that would have been so much more believable in GVK. Like, hey man, I ain't gonna lie, Godzilla's like a big threat here. How about we just call in like this big monkey to actually save us? Save our planet, and then we just place a bet and like see like who wins. Like whoever's the loser here, I guess I don't know what we did. Just
Yeah,
like yeah, just things like that. I thought that was fun.
I wish we got. So I really like Bernie. I
Yeah.
love the idea of his podcast because I think that's something that would really happen. We got a we got a little bit of that in Monarch where they were saying it was a government hoax, which is really funny. But
Oh yeah.
I just wish there was a little bit of payoff with Bernie. Like, is he gonna go through with a character arc and delete his footage and go, "You're right, Trapper. I don't want the corporations to come in and invade this indigenous society." Is he gonna go, "Shut up, Trapper. I'm posting this shit to YouTube"? I don't know. We never know. It would have been cool to play his footage over the credits too. Just like what he filmed over the
Yeah.
course of that. Kind of like they did with Skull Island, where the credits rolled and you saw Hank Marlowe come home, which I think is the
Oh yeah. That,
greatest
that
scene
was
in the
great.
MonsterVerse of all time. Greatest scene. That is so heartfelt, so character driven, passionate. It's just got so much heart, and I want some of that back. I know that Wingard's approach is, you guys want the kaiju fights, here you go, and that's fine
Yeah.
if you want it. I want more stuff like Hank Marlowe's arc that had heart, that had soul. You rooted for him. He came back home. He didn't sacrifice himself like in Hollywood cliches. He made it home. He had a beer and a hot dog. That's wonderful. I want more of that.
See, that's why I feel like that was I feel like that's why with Gia that was probably like the closest we kind of got because I ain't gonna lie, like I was like, oh shit, this is the part where Dr. Eileen Andrews and Gia had to like cut ties because Gia found like her real home in the Hollow Earth. Like I was so ready for it, but either way, like I was like more relieved that no, Gia was like, no, like, I'm still cool with it. Like, hey, wherever like we go, like we're gonna do this together. So I did like that art. So because I know like she was on the edge of like crying and she was like, no, don't do this. This might be a while since I've cried too, but don't do it. But no, like like I said, I was rooting for Gia because I know like yeah, I know what it's like being in that situation. Oh, I don't feel like I belong in, like I don't belong anywhere. I don't belong here like at all. And then like like someone else is rooting for you, like no, like you do belong here. And like she finally got her living proof, and yeah, now she's just thriving off of it. So yeah, I thought that was pretty neat.
But back to your question, Jacob, of is she a good stand-in for the Shobijin? I think so. And it goes back to what my answer would have been when you were asking original kaiju, yay or nay. My answer to that would have been there needs to be a healthy balance because the more callbacks and stuff you add to your movie, the more it feels like half-baked fan fiction. And that is my biggest gripe with King of the Monsters, where yes, I liked a lot of things about King of the Monsters, the creature designs being one of them. I still hold true to the belief that 2019 King Ghidorah is the best looking King Ghidorah we have ever had. But that movie leaned too heavy on the references and fan service to the point where I could easily see this being a fan fiction somebody wrote on the forums back in the day. And so there needs to be a healthy mix and
I agree.
maybe sort of take the idea and put it into something original. Gia is a great example. She's like the Shobijin, but she's a completely original character and concept,
I agree. Yeah. And I think the way they handled the fan service in GXK was pretty good.
Oh no,
Like, it
they handled
wasn't
it
in your
very
face.
well.
It wasn't in your face like oxygen destroyer,
No,
but it
that's
was
Yeah.
like
exactly, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking
it
about
was it
with.
was more like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's exactly what I'm talking about with King of
Mhm.
the Monsters playing out like Michael Dougherty's fan fiction. You know, like it's just callbacks to old Toho properties just for the sake of having a callback. Whereas Godzilla X Kong, I could definitely see this being fan fiction, but it's got a lot of originality and uses like callbacks and references and original IPs as more of like support than the main focus of the whole story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, all of these movies are fan fiction, though. Like, you can't tell me. I'm gonna make the one compare. I
I mean,
hate
you
it
could
when
argue
people.
that for any Godzilla movie. Like, fan fiction is just a movie script that somebody didn't get a studio backing for. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. So I personally really, really, really hate it when minus one is compared to this movie because I just think they're on opposite ends of the polar spectrum. I'll make the comparison once here. Minus one is a fan fiction. Takashi Yamazaki is a diehard Godzilla fan.
So was
But
Michael Dougherty.
so Michael Dougherty. So there you go. You know what I mean?
And
His
some
fan
people are kind of
fiction was
saying like I guess also Adam Wingard too, even though he's kind of like showing more left to Kong, people are saying this is more of like the most biased director in the monsterverse now because of what they're doing with
nah.
Kong or Godzilla. I'm like, look,
If you
like
read his interviews, he says it's because, like I said earlier, it's because Kong is easier for audiences to interact with and relate with. Godzilla's there as the muscle. He's there as the force of nature. He's kind of a stiff character. Yeah, you could probably get moments. You can kind of get moments like Minya with Godzilla and Son of Godzilla. But otherwise, the best thing to do with Godzilla is to show his feats, to show him suplexing Kong, to show him just looking fucking mad at the sight of Kong and diving off a goddamn cliff just because he
whoa,
wants that smoke.
oh yeah, that was
Kong
fucking awesome.
shows emotion. He can talk in sign language. He can interact with Suko. You can tell a story, and that's where I relay my point earlier, where he wants to do that with Godzilla and figure out how to crack that egg, and I'm very excited to see that. I don't, I don't know. Sometimes the fandom gets really weird. Like Adam loves this shit. Adam loves Showa Godzilla. Adam loves King Kong. Adam loves kaiju movies. Adam loves horror movies. It's not because he's like fuck Godzilla, you know. It's just ridiculous.
Like, yeah, like for me, like yeah, because how I just see all these directors, like I just like the fact, like, because I know I think his name is Jordan Vogue Robert. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, so I know he's like a huge Kong fan. I was like, hey, I ain't gonna lie, like shit for a Kong fan or for a Kong film like this, like, this is pretty solid. I'm saying this as a Godzilla fan, and because I know like people like to ask me like, how would I compare this with G14 and Skull Island. I'm like, look, like I like both takes. One is like harder to like, one is like trying to hide and not really be public, and the other, you're trying to reveal him to the world because you're coming to his turf. So I like how it's like, yes, it's kind of like vice versa, regardless, because you can only do it like once so well, and like I feel like that's why it worked out so well for Godzilla still, because once he's revealed. Like, yeah, that's why King of the Monsters now. It's like, well, what's there to hide? That's exactly what we get to see. Like, you get to like see more of him. Like, just do more like cool things in general. And like, I just like how like yeah, I would say like Skull Island's tone was like more of like yeah, fast paced action. And then G14 was like more mysterious, suspensefulness. King of the Monsters is straight up chaos, fan service. GVK was like I wouldn't say fast paced action, it was just like more like fun, dumb action. And then I would say GXK is about like up there too, just dumb, fun action. So it's like yeah, every film just kind of lets you know exactly what it's gonna be. And like I ain't gonna lie either, like I was like never one of those people to like really like be all fancy dancy with like the soundtracks that they use. It's just like hey, whatever you guys are feeling, it's like if I can feel it, then I feel like it just still works overall. Like even in GXK, yeah, I did notice too, like how you guys talked about earlier, how it kind of felt like it was a little bit of a copy and paste from a GVK to GXK, and I did kind of feel that in the movie. But I was like, you know what? I mean, it still works, but it just still works, you know. So I just like how like they just
Keeps it
really just let you
consistent.
know. Yeah, it's a really good consistent feel. So it's just like, well, after the silliness, what are they gonna like really do now? Like, are they gonna like make like more like emotional, like dramatic? I don't know how that would go, but yeah,
Well, we'll have to see in the next installment.
yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Because I know, yeah, I would say like, because now if there's gonna be a sixth one, I guess this is like, yeah, just seriously like, because I really thought GXK would be like, the finale of phase one, but if there's gonna be one more, then okay, yeah, six solid entries could be like a good phase one. Because I don't really consider like Skull Island the animated show and like Modern Legacy of Monsters. Like I don't really count those, in phase one. Like they're just like the extra side pieces.
It's
Those are
Just
like
kind of
the
take it
Agent
or
Carter
take it or leave
of
it.
the MonsterVerse. Like, yeah, it's connected. But what was that other one that aired on?
Agents of Shield.
Yeah, those were like the Agent Carter and Agents of Shield of the
Oh,
MonsterVerse.
Agent Carter being compared is that's a little disrespectful.
Well, no.
It's like, oh dang, dude.
Meaning that like it's a TV tie-in
Take
to
it,
the
yeah,
overall
it's take it or
universe,
leave it.
but it's
Yeah.
like kind of soft canon. Monarch is definitely harder canon than the anime series, but like, you could easily make that comparison in that way.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just like take it or leave it kind of stuff. It doesn't really change anything at the end of the day.
No.
You don't have to watch 14 hours of TV show to understand part of the story, which that's why it works and that's why it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Monarch is like, it's sort of at least for me, it's like a gray area of being soft and hard canon. It really depends on how you look at it.
Especially if you notice, one thing I definitely peeped that was like really wrecked time. It was like the director of like Monarch, because they always keep changing the director of Monarch like in every movie. Because like I know in the TV show was like I think her name was Verdugo, something like that.
Verdugo, yeah.
And like yeah, so I'm like, where the fuck does she go now? Does she die or something? Like where is she? Like I thought she was like, because I know she was like the main one back in 2015's timeline, but like after those 4 years in King of the Monsters, it's like yeah, where are all these people like even going? Like it's not really consistent with like the members of like Monarch's team either. Because even with surviving characters like Dr. Houston Brooks, like he was also kind of fan service again in King of the Monsters as a callback from Skull Island. But I don't think anyone would have noticed unless you pay attention to like probably the name. Like yeah, same thing with Dr. Houston Brooks. If he was such a huge deal, like how come we haven't seen him again like ever since?
That's the
Things like
problem
that.
with characters in Monarch. It's like, and with where they had the story take place, it's like, all right, you have it set in smack dab in the middle of the MonsterVerse timeline. Where do these characters go from here? Are they just there just for Monarch, or do they play a greater part? Like, are we gonna see Tim May's old boss, I forget her name, Kentaro, Kate, and May, like all those people, the main characters, are they going to be part of the MonsterVerse as a whole, or like we just left to assume that they all work for Apex now, and May's coding is going to be used to create Mechagodzilla, which I thought was going to happen like in the season finale, but
yeah. Nope.
No, but yeah, like that's the problem, like. That Monarch was.
You got Kurt Russell in the MonsterVerse, and you don't put him in the movies. It's kind of a missed opportunity. But we're not here. I mean, I'm not here to talk about Monarch all day. I mean, this is about GXK. But one thing I would like to see as well. I know it was a write-off joke. Ghidorah stands 64. I thought that was hilarious, by the way.
Oh yeah. Did you guys notice that poster that was from Godzilla 2014? It was kind of like the poster that had like the
in Bernie's apartment.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I remember that poster. Yeah, I thought that was.
There's some good Easter eggs if you go hunting, like the punch graffiti.
The
Godzilla eating the pizza is by Shotguns. He's on Instagram. He's a freaking great artist.
This movie definitely had some good Easter eggs.
Yeah, there were some good ones. And it wasn't in your face like, this is the oxygen destroyer, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
That being said, it'd be a really funny thing in the next one if they reveal who Ghidorah Stand 64 is. I think that'd be kind of funny.
It's Ren
But I
Sarazawa.
don't want it to be like, yeah, like I don't want it to be like Kurt Russell or something. Like that'd be really funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like this is a version of expectation. You think it's some nerd in his basement, but it's Kurt Russell.
How meta would it be if it's Ren Sarazawa? Like the movies go the canon of the novelization, and Ren didn't actually die. He was just possessed by the consciousness of Ghidorah, and now, but instead of using it to like take over the world, he's using it to troll Bernie online.
That'd be pretty good.
I would say, like one thing that always stood out to me from Bernie's podcast. I don't know if you guys caught it back in GVK because I had like paused the scene. It was like the one. It was talking about Mothra's pregnancy theory. Like, who's the baby daddy? Like, who is Mothra getting pregnant by? Like that was a great question.
I want to pause.
Yeah.
I want to pause the movie when it shows his computer screen because it has like a kind of a Spotify feed of like 5 episodes. I want to see what those are. I didn't get to see it close enough.
Yeah, that's exactly where it came from. Yeah, one of them was like talking about Mothra's pregnancy theory. I thought it was just great. Like, yeah, who's the baby daddy? Like, who's just responsible for all this stuff? And like,
Maury?
I saw one like Titanicilla. Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and that's why I also like how much more expanded he is as a character. Because I wanted to see like more of that kind of stuff in GVK. So I'm glad that we got to see more of that in GXK. I didn't even care if he like sounded like as insane as he got. I'm like, yeah, once you're a conspiracy theorist, you're gonna just start saying like lots of crazy things. And I thought it was really cool that this time around it was Dr. Eileen Andrews that needed his help because of how good he is when it comes to like these kind of things. Kind of like how it was with Millie Bobby Brown.
He seemed a little less crazy. Like he was presented as like more tinfoil hatty in GVK. This one, he seemed like he was just like, I want to uncover the truth about the Titans, which is,
maybe it was because he was proven right in GVK. And
yeah,
then, like,
that's probably what it
maybe
is.
he was just tinfoil hatty because he was just chasing that high of, I gotta be right. Like, I want to be right about this. I want to be right. And once it was proven that he was right, it's like, okay, now what? Now he calms down a little bit. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how the mind of a conspiracy theorist works. That's just my theory.
I feel like he probably calmed down, maybe because he had like some of his little fellow fans too start believing him in the long run. So it's all right, cool. I got my little supporters that follow me because I'm pretty sure like after because I know like in GVK it was like I think it was just like coming off as like anonymous and then like maybe like had like a few people watching, including like Millie Bobby Brown's character. But then like in GXK it's like you can just tell he's like way more comfortable. I'm talking like he has the camera out now and starts like vlogging in the Hollow Earth and no one's really holding him back either. So I feel like got to the point where like, yeah, Bernie is like probably a reliable resource out there now in the monsterverse. I feel like he could be like the monsterverse is like kind of like in the same category as like a news reporter, but like just like as a more of a podcaster, like, just reporting on like what's going on during these incidents in like the Hollow Earth or like any of the monster that shows up. Like I can see him like being one of those guys, like maybe like in the helicopters, like reporting this shit before like he blows up in the long run or something. But yeah,
he'll become like the MCU J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, no way. Like, oh my god, we're back here getting some more Godzilla. This time he's going up against Zilla. Back in Rome.
Bernie is the Kaiju United of the MonsterVerse.
Oh yes. Because I know what is this? Dan Stevens. He's like basically like, Dr. Dolittle in the MonsterVerse.
His introduction was actually really great. Like that was a solid character moment. Like I know we kind of flipped back and forth between characters and what we thought about this movie.
Now you guys want to give final thoughts and then we'll wrap?
Yeah. Overall, so yeah, like I said, for my first watch, in terms of like just walking in, already knowing that this would be like more Kong centric, and just not expecting too much overall. Like I just thought it was a 10 out of 10 in terms of like what I wanted to see, and like again, it's going to be one of those things now in the MonsterVerse. Ever since King of the Monsters, it's like it's just more of like if this is exactly what you wanted to see in a movie, you're gonna love this. But if you're here for like more of the character arcs, you're not gonna enjoy this too much because the humans kind of bounce off all over the place, and I can see them making another one in the future. Of course, it's just more of like as long as they can just continue to make it make sense and maybe not fan service too hard in the long run, and maybe just make that consistency like um, more better in terms of like I guess monster scaling and like I would say the balancing between the humans and the monsters are like actually improving a lot because in GXK I really did not like feel like the humans didn't just take up the screen too much. I always felt like a good 5-10 minutes in between and then boom, monster scene. So I did like that change, and I hope that they keep that consistency. And that's just how I feel about GXK. I think it's a really fun film to watch with a no-brainer. Um, and I recommend this movie to anyone that hasn't seen it yet, or maybe that's a fan of both Godzilla and Kong, and just loves monster films in general.
I agree, man. Like, this is a movie where you're not supposed to think too hard. You're just supposed to have
Yeah.
fun with it. Like, I wasn't expecting this movie to be thought provoking. Like, I was expecting this movie to be exactly what it was, just like mindless monster entertainment, a like a love letter to the 60s and 70s Godzilla movies. And, it's a fun movie, not without its flaws. Um,
Yeah.
there are some things I really didn't care for or rolled my eyes at, but they were overshadowed with things that I liked. Despite
Oh
the
yeah.
fights, as brief as they may have been, were great. Um, things happening for reasons. All right, whatever, that's fine. um, I would definitely say I like Godzilla versus Kong way more than this one. Um, give it maybe 2-3 years, hell, maybe even one. This movie's just gonna blend in with everything else, and it's not gonna be as memorable. But well, also I think this movie didn't really have like the weight and the anticipation that the release of GVK had, because Dante, you were there when you were on Instagram. Like, remember how just like excited everybody was? Like, we all came together because this movie, we were waiting not only years and decades for this rematch to happen, but like when it was finally announced, it got delayed because of the pandemic. And then when we finally did get that trailer, we had like those 3 months of everybody just coming together and being hyped for this movie. Like, oh my God, I can't
Oh yeah.
believe that this is happening. Like, it was just, there was just something very communal about the build up and the hype to that movie. And yeah, while this movie did have that in its own unique way, we're coming off the heels of Godzilla -1 and Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It just, there was something special about GVK. And when it finally did come out, people were, like still talking about it months and months and months after the fact. Whereas this one, I think once we have all the releases, everybody's just going to be like, oh, yeah, that was a movie. What's next? It's not going to be as memorable. But I like the movie for what it was. I think my rating would be a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10. Not the best thing in the world, but, still good fun.
Well said. All right, I guess I'll give my thoughts and we can give some closers. Actually, ironically, my score is the same as Nick's. I would give it like a 6.5, 7-ish out of 10. Like I said, I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was fun. It was a good time with my friends when we saw it all together last night. Um, I didn't have the same experience that Nick did with GVK. Definitely the trailer coming out was very exciting, um, but I wasn't involved in the communal part of that stuff. So GVK is kind of, it's a fun watch, but I haven't rewatched it since it came out. So I'm kind of in that camp with that movie as like, yeah, that happened. For me, the hype was with King of the Monsters, where the communal stuff was happening. G-Fest 2019 was epic. So that's where my rose tinted glasses fall in. Um, as for the reactions to this film, I really think the audience is eating it up, man. People are having fun with this movie. Like, it's great to see. There's a lot of kids at my screening, so if this movie gets people to go watch the other movies, it's done its job, in my opinion. Doesn't matter how I feel about the movie. It's creating more fans. It's making sure the next generation of fans is here. And I'm fine with more MonsterVerse. I just have fun with it. It's nice to go on a weekend and have dinner with the boys and go see Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. That's all it really needs to be. So may the MonsterVerse continue. I would love to see more. That's all I really got.
And to
You
help
want
you
to
out that
take us
point too,
home?
I would just say, at the end of the day, all of these monstrous films are going to have their flaws, but if the good always outweighs the bad, that's what always counts the most to me.
Yeah, totally. And one final thought, and I'll let Nick take it home. Like what you love, love what you love, guys. Like, just because Nick and I gave it 6 out of 10s, if you gave it a 10 out of 10 and you freaking love this movie, wear that badge, man. Go love that movie. Go release it, or go watch it over and over and over and over again. Wear that badge. Like, love what you love. If you love Son of Godzilla, like, just be proud of it. Just because we were a little average on it doesn't mean that you can love it. And it might be someone's favorite Godzilla movie ever, and that's totally
cool.
awesome.
Hell, dude, I'll put myself in the line of fire right now. There is a small part of me that unironically enjoys Godzilla's Revenge. Small part of me. That movie is objective trash, but there is a small part of me that has a soft spot for it.
That's a discussion for another time. I don't think it's objectively trash. I think it's a brilliant kids film and a passion project by Honda. But that's a discussion for another time.
And with that, guys, another edition of Kaiju United Town Hall comes to a close. Dante, man, shout out your stuff before we really close this off.
All right. Well, if you guys want to check me out, my YouTube is basically the same as my name here, Dante Dotson. I am pretty much well known for doing lots of kaiju voiceovers. No monster era is safe. I've done the Showa, the Heisei, the Millennium, and now the Monsterverse, and including the Reiwa era as well from Toho. And I might not make them as consistent as I once did, but once I have an idea, I do not bullshit and milk them out. I will make sure every new voiceover comes out as good as the last one or better. Away from that, I also do reaction videos, movie reviews, and also little news updates in between, whichever's just revolving off my mind the most. And yeah, I think you guys will love what you guys are coming for. And if you guys do, go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, I think you guys will all have a good time on there in general.
Awesome. And you can, of course, find me on Instagram at Kaiju Junkie and Jacob at Lingelgon. And you can find the greater Kaiju United at kaijuunited.com, Kaiju United on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Give us 5 stars if you're listening to us on Spotify. It helps us out a ton.
Woo!
And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.